Okay, good afternoon, sir. Before I'm going to tell you my opinion about the phonetic consonants, first I would like to introduce myself. My name is Citta Pradipta of English Education Department. I I think producing consonant involves narrowing the vowel channel at several locations than usual. I'm called this narrowing. Which consonant you pronounce depends on the part of the narrowing of the voice channel and how narrow it is. It also depends on several other things, such as whether the vocal cords vibrate and whether air is flowing through the nose. I classify consonant in three main dimensions. First, place of articulation. Second, way of articulation. And the third, voice. The place of the dimensions of the articulation determines where in the voice channel the narrowing occurs. The vocal parameters determine whether the vocal cord vibrate. The mode of articulation is basically everything. How narrow it is narrowed, whether air is flowing through the nose, and whether the tongue is dropped to one side. The vocal cord can be held to each other at the right tension so that air flowing through them from the lungs cause them to vibrate with each other. I'm called this process voicing. Sounds made by vibrating the vocal cords are said to be voiced. Sounds made with the vibrating the vocal cords are said to be mute. Stop. A stop consonant actually cuts off the flow of air through the mouth. In consonant T, D, and N, the tips of the tongue touches the alveolar ridge and cuts off the airflow at this point. In T and D, this means there is no airflow at all for the duration of the stops. In N, there is no airflow through the mouth, but there is still airflow through the nose. We differentiate between nasal stops such as N, which involves the flow of air through the nose, and oral stops such as T and D, which are not. A stopping nose is often called a nasal. Oral interruptions are often called plosives. Verbal stoppage can be voiced or mute. The nose stops almost always being voiced. It is basically possible to produce nasal stops without a sound, but English, like most languages, does not use such a sound. Fricatives. In the stops T, the tongue tip touches the alveolar ridge and cuts off the airflow. In S, the tongue tip approaches the alveolar ridge but doesn't quite touch it. There is still enough of an opening for airflow to continue, but the opening is narrow enough that it causes the escaping air to become turbulent, hence the hissing sound of the S. In a fricative consonant, the articulators involved in the constriction approach get close enough to each other, create a turbulent airstream. Okay, that's enough my opinion about phonetic consonant. Thank you and bye bye.